My name is Jesslyn. This video is about geometric figures and definitions. This is okay if you're in a math class or if you're in a pre-algebra class. You might have a little bit of a geometry unit. They're kind of all intertwined, and so you'll need to know these definitions before moving on. So the first one we're going to talk about is a line. So a line is going to go in opposite directions infinitely. So that's why these arrows are there, but it's just a straight line going in the opposite directions infinitely. I'm going to do a line segment before I do a shape. A line segment is just like part of a line. So we have our line, and a line segment is going to be part of a line, so it's going to have two endpoints. So this part right here would be a line segment. You can draw it like this too. That's a line segment. A shape is made up of line segments. So we have a triangle, and you notice here we have little line segments, and a shape is going to be closed, right? It's not going to be open. A point is just some location in space. It doesn't have a size, but we identify them with like uppercase letters. So this would be point A. Let's go on and do array first. So array, it has an endpoint and then it goes on forever in the other direction. So one endpoint and then goes on forever. An angle is actually made up of two rays. So here's an angle. It goes on forever, and then we have a common endpoint called a vertex. But if you notice, you break it up. There's a ray and here's a ray. So that is an angle. Let me move down here. So let's talk about this. It says a shape. A shape can be two-dimensional or it can be three-dimensional. Two-dimensional shapes are flat. So like when we're drawing on paper, we're drawing two-dimensional shapes. These are two-dimensional. Or a three-dimensional figure. So a three-dimensional figure is something that has depth. They can be drawn on a piece of paper. Three-dimensional figures can be drawn on a piece of paper to show depth. So I can draw a cube. It's about the only shape I can draw three-dimensionally. Maybe a cylinder too. A cylinder to show depth. Okay. But it shows depth, and you can see it kind of sticks out on the page. It's not just flat. So that's the difference between 3D and 2D. And then we're going to go over some definitions here. So we have a prefix, we have the meaning, then we have the polygon classification, then description. If you don't know what a polygon is just a closed shape. So all shapes are classified as polygons. But we can get more specific. There are shapes that have multiple names, but we always name it with the most specific name that it tells us exactly what it looks like. So instead of saying polygon, because that could be a ton of shapes, we're going to say for this one, triangle. The prefix for triangle is tri. Tri means three. If you think of a tricycle, it has three wheels. So tri means three. Three sides and three angles. So triangle. So that's the definition of a triangle. So now we have a quadrilateral. So quadrilateral, so quad means four. So a quadrilateral is any shape that has four sides. Within that, we have a lot of shapes that have four sides. We have a square, we have a rectangle, we have a parallelogram, we have a rhombus, we have a trapezoid. Okay, so any shape that has four sides is called a quadrilateral. And then we can name these more specifically with their descriptions. Like a square is all sides are congruent and all angles are right angles. So technically, and then a rectangle is just opposite sides are congruent and parallel and all 90-degree angles. So technically a square actually meets the definition of a rectangle. So a square can actually be classified as a rectangle as well, but we call it a square because it's more specific. That square name tells us that all sides are congruent. If we were calling a square a rectangle, you might draw a picture like this that doesn't have all sides congruent. So if you're trying to explain to draw a square to somebody, you would specifically say all sides are congruent. So that's why we call a square and not a rectangle, because it's the most specific name for it. Technically a parallelogram, rectangles and squares are also parallelograms, but again, we call them squares and rectangles so somebody knows exactly what we're talking about. And if we say a parallelogram, then we just draw something like that instead of a rectangle or a square. Okay, a pentagon. The word penta means 5. So a pentagon is shapes that have 5 sides. Hexa means 6. So hexagon means a shape that has 6 sides. And hepa, it means 7. So if you have a heptagon, it has 7 sides. And octa, a lot of you know this shape because of stop signs. Octagon has 8 sides. Octa means 8. So when I say a shape, like if I say hexagon, you know I'm talking about a shape that has 6 sides because we're looking at that prefix, and hexa means 6. And then the prefix nana means 9. So a nonagon has 9 sides. And last but not least, and these go on for 11-sided shapes, 12-sided shapes, but we're just going to stop at a 10-sided shape, which is decagon. Deca means 10. So these are the different types of shapes that you'll need to know. Thank you for watching.